The verses of the Gospel of St. Mark that follow immediately after what Deacon Mike has just proclaimed for us tell of the triumphant entry of Jesus into Jerusalem and the beginning of his passion, which in fact we heard on Palm Sunday earlier this year. Today's section then is an end section. It's taken from the close in Mark's Gospel of the end of the public life of Jesus. St. Mark introduces the cure of Bartimaeus at this crucial point, and I believe it's very carefully and well chosen. What we've heard is a mini summary of the whole Gospel. It is about faith. Faith of an individual in Jesus and the faith in Jesus of the whole community of the church. And so I'm going to be provocative and bold to begin with. I'm going to invite you to imagine that you are a blind beggar. I think that is a useful way to enter into this gospel and to see the journey of faith that's possible for all of us. Maybe you are hoping for a slightly more consoling message in coming church today, you know. The pastor got up and said we were a group of blind beggars. But I think the gospel is inviting us to journey from that position to healing and to following in the way. Because if we do enter into this blind beggar's experience, then we will be helped to depend on God and to honestly cry out from our hearts, just as Bartimaeus did. We will know what is authentic for our lives and not be misled by the crowd, just as Bartimaeus did. We will hear Jesus invite us to own and to state what we want, just as he did for Bartimaeus, and we will follow him on the way. So being like Bartimaeus will allow us to sing with joy. What did we sing with the psalm? The Lord has done great things for us. We are filled with joy. So let's learn to be blind beggars. The first reading sets the scene. God does not abandon his people, we're told. Jeremiah reveals that God invites the outcast, the blind, and the lame in their midst. The mothers and those with child will be led to brooks of water and travel on level ground. They will come home. Later, in the prophecy of Jeremiah, in fact, in chapter 31, verse 31, God will offer a new covenant to the people so that they can be refreshed. They can have a sense of a new beginning. Bartimaeus shares that hope in God. So as he sits on the side of the road in the dust, he trusts God even as he sits in poverty, idleness, and begs. He has inside himself the knowledge of his people that God wants more for him. He knows God has given him more dignity than this. He is more than this. We are more than we seem. Bartimaeus has heard of Jesus, the Son of David, and when he's informed that he is near, he cries out for pity and mercy. And his voice is heard. He has addressed the Son of God. He is a model for us. Now, some not so good news in the midst of all the good news. Did you notice what the crowd did? The crowd fails. Even part of the crowd that is following Jesus, they fail. They don't understand the place of a beggar in God's scheme of things. They haven't heard, they never got the memo from Jeremiah. Be silent, they say. Stop causing a fuss, they say. You're just noise, unpleasantness, and disorder. Be silent, they say. But Bartimaeus has something in his heart that knows not to trust the crowd, and he calls out all the more, we're told. The news of the crowd is not always true. Bartimaeus has the attention of Jesus, who says to the fickle crowd, call him. And suddenly the crowd is encouraging, as they should have been at the very beginning. Mark's use of the words in describing what happens next are essential. Bartimaeus threw aside the cloak, he sprang up, and he came to Jesus. What was holding him back is thrown aside. Don't forget, it's his only possession, presumably, this cloak. It's thrown aside. He springs up and he goes to Jesus. And there it is. That's the call of each of us Christian. Throw off the cloak that prevents us from moving forward. Rise and go to encounter Jesus Christ. Next, we have the exchange between Jesus and Bartimaeus. And it's sort of surprising. I mean, doesn't Jesus know what Bartimaeus wants? Why does he ask, what do you want? Isn't that redundant? Well, actually it isn't. Jesus wants Bartimaeus to grow. He wants to coax him to know and articulate his heart to the Son of God. True discipleship is following our heart's desire. That is what true discipleship is. Because if we don't find our hearts, what part of ourselves are we following Jesus with? If we don't find our hearts, what part of Jesus are we following with? Our heads? Our childish conditioning? So the question, what do you want, is a key to unlock attentive, vibrant discipleship. So Bartimaeus speaks, Master, I want to see. The cure is almost found and given to him immediately. And it's given to him now in the midst of the ordinary life and the ordinary things that he's already been doing. Jesus tells him, go your way, your faith has saved you. The faith in God to cry out to God. The faith to ignore the crowd when they get it wrong and ask him to be silent. The faith to cast off his cloak. The faith he has to come to Jesus to encounter him. The faith to speak his heart. That faith has saved him. Immediately, we are told, he received his sight and followed Jesus on the way. That's our journey, going from blind beggaring to following Jesus on the way in our everyday life and as best we can. So it's okay to be a blind beggar. It's okay to start in the dust as long as we know and are aware of the invitation. I suggested that the gospel tells us something about our faith journey individually, but also our faith journey as a community. And I have suggested to you that if we were to imagine ourselves today as part of the crowd in the gospel, we'd be disappointed. Initially, we, the crowd, are trying to shut Bartimaeus up, and then later, when it's the popular thing to do, we're saying, oh, he's inviting you. Oh, we're encouraging you then. And so it would seem that the apostles, a bit like us, a bit like our church, is inconsistent. We're learning about inconsistency in the church at the moment. We're learning hard lessons about inconsistency at the moment. But I think we all know that life gets so busy that we can indeed all fall into the trap of being inconsistent. And today I want to invite your reflection on one aspect of being alert and consistent disciples. I want to speak to you momentarily about your approach to the elections that are coming up. I invite you, please, to exercise your right to vote. Please do not let your assessment of the candidates as possibly being unworthy to cloud you. There's plenty of cynicism around. Oh, they're all the same. They're only interested in themselves. There is a possibility that we're going to end up like the crowd saying, oh, shut up, you're just a beggar. You just want money, shut up. We must enter into this democratic process. Don't hear yourself say they are mere beggars. And I invite you, please, not to relegate your faith to some sort of pious inner sanctum that you address only on a Sunday. Our faith must impact our outlook on societal and national life and how we engage with politics. How you vote should seek to impact human dignity and the common good. Jesus came to heal the world, not just Bartimaeus, and we have a role in making sure that happens. So today, I invite us to seriously learn the simplicity of being somebody who begs for greater insight. I invite you to ignore certain voices in the culture. I invite you to throw off what is blocking you from true discipleship, to spring up, to seize opportunities you have, and to encounter Jesus Christ. And I invite you to enter in and walk the way.